The next sutta is 5.8.78. The Buddha said, "Monks, there are these 5 fears in the way." What 5? Take the case of a monk who reflects thus: "I am now young, a mere youth, black-haired, and blessed with the beauty of youth, the heyday of youth, the prime of youth. But time will come when old age shall touch this body, and when grown old and overcome by age, not easy is it to turn to the Buddha's word. Not easy things are forest wildernesses, the outland bed and seat to seek. Before that state come to me, unwelcome, undesired, unloved. Lo, I will put forth energy against that time, even to attain the unattained, to master the unmastered, to realize the unrealized. And of that state possessed, I will dwell comforted even when old." Monks, this is the first fear in the way. Again he reflects, "I have health and well-being, a good digestion, which is neither over-cold nor overheated, but even and suitable for striving. But time will be when sickness shall touch this body, and sick and ill, not easy is it to turn to the Buddha's word. Lo, I will put forth energy and dwell comforted even when sick." Monks, this is the second fear in the way. Again he reflects, "Now there is no famine, and crops are good, food is easy to get, and it is easy to keep oneself going by gleanings and favors. But time will be when there is a famine, bad crops, and difficulty in getting food. Nor will it be easy to keep oneself going by gleanings and favors. And the famine-stricken men will move to where there is ample food, and there one will dwell in a crowd and a throng. And where such conditions are, not easy is it to turn to the Buddha's word. Lo, I will put forth energy and dwell comforted even in time of famine." Monks, this is the third fear in the way. Again he reflects, "Now men dwell in friendly fellowship together, as mingled milk and water. They do not quarrel, but look upon one another with friendly eye. But time will be when fear is about, perils of bandits, and the country folk mount their carts and drive away, and the fear-stricken men will move away to where there is safety, and there one will live in crowds and throngs. And where such conditions are, not easy is it to turn to the Buddha's word. Lo, I will put forth energy and dwell comforted even in time of fear." This is the fourth fear in the way. Moreover, monks, the monk reflects thus: "Now the Sangha lives in friendly fellowship together, finding comfort in one teaching. But the time will come when the Sangha will be divided. And when that happens, not easy is it to turn to the Buddha's word. Not easy things are forest wildernesses, the outland bed and seat to seek. Before that state come, unwelcome, undesired, unloved. Lo, I will put forth energy against that time, even to attain the unattained, to master the unmastered, to realize the unrealized. And of that state possessed, I will dwell comforted, even though the Sangha be divided." Monks, this is the fifth fear in the way. These monks are the 5 fears in the way. That's the end of the sutta. So this sutta is reflections on impermanence. Because of impermanence, our present state can always change. So the person cultivating the holy life or the spiritual path should always consider that you are growing old day by day, and when we grow older, it's much more difficult to practice the spiritual path. So now it's better that we put forth energy now than to think of putting forth energy in the future. As we heard the previous sutta, that whenever we can find some time every day, we should practice some cetos samatha to tranquilize the mind. Otherwise, we are not living by Dhamma. The second one is to consider that sickness one day will come to us. So before we become sick, we should put forth energy. The third one, famine. Fourth one, bandits. And the fifth one, which is applicable only to monks, is that the Sangha will be divided. So these are the contemplations of impermanence we should often make, so that we get the urgency to practice the holy life. The next one is Sutta 5.8.79. Monks, these 5 fears in the way which have not yet arisen will arise in the future. Be you fully awake for them, and being awake, strive to get rid of them. What 5? Monks, there will be in the long road of the future monks who have not made body become, that is, not developed body, not made moral conduct become, not made mind become, not made wisdom become. And those who have not made this becoming will cause the ordination of others. And verily they will not be able to lead them in the way of higher moral conduct, higher mind, higher wisdom. And they too will become monks who have not made body become, not made moral conduct become, not made mind become, not made wisdom become. And those who have not made this becoming will cause the ordination of others. And verily they will not be able to lead them in the way of higher moral conduct, higher mind, higher wisdom. And they too will become monks who have not made body become, not made moral conduct become, not made mind become, not made wisdom become. Thus verily monks, from corrupt Dhamma comes corrupt discipline, Vinaya. From corrupt discipline, corrupt Dhamma. Monks, this is the first fear in the way, which though not yet arisen, will arise in the future. Be you fully awake for it, and being awake, strive to get rid of it. Again, monks who have not made this becoming will teach others, and verily they will not be able to lead them in the way of higher moral conduct, higher mind, higher wisdom. And those too who have not made this becoming will teach others, and will not be able to lead them in the way of higher moral conduct, higher mind, higher wisdom. Thus verily monks, from corrupt Dhamma comes corrupt discipline, from corrupt discipline, corrupt Dhamma. Monks, this is the second fear in the way. Again, monks who have not made this becoming, when giving a talk on the higher Dhamma, Abhidhamma, will not be fully awake to the meaning, but will enter on a state of darkness. Thus verily monks, from corrupt Dhamma comes corrupt discipline, from corrupt discipline, corrupt Dhamma. Monks, this is the third fear in the way. Again, monks who have not made this becoming will not listen, will not give a ready ear, will not want to understand or deem such things should be recited and mastered, when those discourses, suttas, spoken by the Tathagata, deep, profound in meaning, transcending the world, concerning emptiness, are recited. But those discourses of poets, mere poems, just a show of words and phrases, alien, the utterances of disciples, to these, when recited, they will listen, will give a ready ear, will want to understand, and deem such things should be recited and mastered. Thus indeed, monks, from corrupt Dhamma comes corrupt discipline, from corrupt discipline, corrupt Dhamma. Monks, this is the fourth fear in the way. Moreover, monks, there will be in the long road of the future monks who have not made body, moral conduct, mind, or wisdom become. And those elders who have not made this becoming will become luxurious, lax, prime movers in backsliding, shirking the burden of the secluded life. And they will put forth no effort to attain the unattained, to master the unmastered, to realize the unrealized. And those who come after them will fall into their views, and they too will become luxurious, lax, prime movers in backsliding, shirking the burden of the secluded life. So this sutta is a very interesting sutta about the 5 fears the Buddha asks us to be careful of in the future. The first one is that a monk who has not developed body, virtue, mind and wisdom will ordain others. The second one, he has not developed these qualities. He will give guidance to others, will become an acharya, a teacher. In Thailand they call it achan, to others. And this is something the Buddha said we have to be careful of. If we look into the Vinaya books, the Buddha in the early years asked the monks to attain liberation before they teach others. And later, because the Arahants were getting less and less, the Buddha relaxed the rules. And eventually the Buddha said that a monk cannot ordain others and cannot give guidance or teach others unless they have cultivated themselves for 10 years. 10 years was the minimum time a monk was expected to practice. And the first 5 years he was supposed to live with his teacher and get proper guidance. That's according to the Vinaya. A monk has to either live with his upajjhaya, his preceptor, or live with an acharya, a teacher, for 5 years. And during these 5 years, he gets the benefit of the experience of his teacher or preceptor, his proper guidance in the suttas, the Vinaya, and also meditation, etc. So, after 5 years, if he wanted to, he could go and live alone, practice alone for another 5 years, and then having 10 years of experience behind him, then only he can give guidance to others. And this was the minimum standard set in the Vinaya. But even then, sometimes some monks don't follow this standard. After they wear the robe for a short while, they start taking disciples, or they start giving guidance to others or ordain. But ordination nowadays, generally they don't ordain because nowadays, especially in the Buddhist countries, you have certain guidelines given. But still, some people, some monks, they take disciples too early. So this was a warning the Buddha gave, that a monk should cultivate himself before he teach others. And the third one is talking about Abhidhamma. But Abhidhamma in the suttas does not refer to the Abhidhamma Pitaka that we now have. The higher Dhamma in the suttas, if you look through the suttas, it is reference to the higher teachings, and the higher teachings in the suttas generally refers to the teachings that can get us out of samsara, and in particular the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas, the Aryan Eightfold Path, the 7 Bojjhangas, factors of enlightenment, the 5 faculties, the 5 powers, the 4 Satipatthana, etc., etc. So when a monk wants to give a talk on the higher Dhamma, then he should understand, otherwise the Buddha said he will enter on a state of darkness. And then the fourth one is an interesting one, because here the Buddha said in the future, those discourses, those suttas of the Buddha, people do not want to listen to them, will not want to give a ready ear, will not want to understand or deem that such things should be recited and mastered. Those suttas spoken by the Buddha, deep, profound in meaning, transcending the world, concerning emptiness. These people don't want to listen. But those teachings of disciples, they would want to listen. and meaning teachings of monk disciples, and also later books which are other than the suttas. People take an interest to them, whereas the Buddha here is saying that the discourses, that teachings that we want to study should be the Buddha's discourses. And this is very clear here. And we should always remember in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, when the Buddha was about to pass away, he was asked, now that the teacher is going to Nibbana, who should we take as our teacher? And the Buddha said, take the Dhamma Vinaya as your teacher. Our teacher is always the Dhamma Vinaya, always remember that. And the Dhamma in the Anguttara Nikaya is defined as the suttas. And the Vinaya, of course, concerns only monks. So we must be very familiar with the discourses and the suttas of the discourses of the Buddha before we practice. Otherwise, we'll go on the wrong step, and then take us many years before we realize that we've gone on the wrong step. And then the last one, the Buddha is talking about monks who become luxurious and take the lead in backsliding, shirking the burden of the secluded life, making no effort to attain the unattained, to master the unmastered, to realize the unrealized. And when they do that, their disciples will also follow their views, will also become like that. And they will make no effort to get out of samsara. And if you remember one of the earlier suttas I read, the Buddha said, if a person wears the robe and he does not cultivate, practice to get out of samsara, that means he does not practice the three factors of sila, samadhi, panya, moral conduct, concentration and wisdom, then the Buddha said he's not a monk, even though he wears the robe. So it is very important for a monk to always remember that the purpose of wearing the robe is to practice to get out of suffering. Now the next sutta is 5.8.80. Monks, there are these five fears in the way, which have not arisen and will arise in the future. Be you fully awake for them, and being awake, strive to get rid of them. What five? Monks, there will be in the long road of the future monks who long for fine robes, and they with this longing will leave the ways of wearing rags, will leave the forest wilderness, the outland bed and seat, and will move to village, town or Raja's capital, and make their dwelling there. And because of a robe, they will commit many things unseemly, unfit. Monks, this is the first fear in the way. Again, monks will long for rich alms food, will leave the ways of the common round, the forest wilderness, the outland bed and seat, and will move to village, town or Raja's capital, seeking out, as it were, with the tip of the tongue, tasty morsels. And because of food, they will commit many things unseemly, unfit. Monks, this is the second fear in the way. Again, monks will long for comfortable bed and seat, will leave the ways of the tree-root abode, the forest wilderness, the outland bed and seat, and will move to village, town or Raja's capital. And because of a bed and seat, they will commit things unseemly, unfit. Monks, this is the third fear in the way. Again, monks will live in company with nuns and novices in training, and when this shall be, it may be expected that the monks will take no delight in leading the holy life, and either they will commit some foul act or give up the training and return to the lower life. Monks, this is the fourth fear in the way. Moreover, monks, there will be in the long road of the future monks who will live in company with the park folk and novices, and when this shall be, it may be expected that they will live and feast themselves on the plenty of hoarded stocks, and will mark out their lands and crops. Monks, this is the fifth fear in the way, which, though not yet arisen, will arise in the future. Be you fully awake for it, and being awake, strive to get rid of it. Monks, these are the five fears in the way. This is the last of the 4 suttas concerning with the fears in the way. And these are all very important suttas. This sutta, the first 3 concerns the fine robes, rich food, and comfortable dwelling. And if a monk stays in a town, capital, because of these good requisites, then it is not proper for a monk. And in the Vinaya books, one of the disciples of the Buddha, Devadatta, he tried to be very ascetic, and he asked the Buddha for 5 things. One of them was to impose 5 conditions for all the monks. One was that monks should only live in secluded places, in forests, caves, etc., and forbid them to live in town areas. Another one was that monks should only take vegetarian food and not take any meat. Another one was that monks should go on alms round every day and not just accept invitations. And another 2 conditions I've forgotten. But anyway, the Buddha disagreed. The Buddha said that if there are monks who want to live in forest areas, they may do so. If monks want to live in town areas, they may do so. If monks want to take food, they should take what is given. They should not be selective of their food. If monks want to go on alms round, they may do so. If monks want to go on invitations, accept invitations, they may do so. So the Buddha in his wisdom realized that it all depends on the monk. The precepts of the monks grew up later. In the initial stages, when the Buddha did not impose the precepts on the monks, there were many arahants, even without the precepts. And even though in the initial stages the Buddha allowed his disciples to take 3 meals a day, there were many arahants. So it all depends on the monk. If a monk is a good monk, you don't have to impose many conditions. He will know how to control himself. If a monk is not a good monk, then even if you impose many conditions, he will not follow. But here, in particular, the Buddha is just giving this warning that a monk should not go and live in a town area just because of fine robes, because of rich food, because of comfortable dwelling. In the Majjhima Nikaya, there is a sutta called the Nivapa Sutta, where the Buddha gave a simile of deers, a flock of deers, or trying to get food. And then the farmer grows the crops, and these deers, they go and eat the farmer's crops. And when the farmer gets to know of it, he traps the deer and kills them because they eat his crops. And then out of fear, the deer went into the forest and tried to live in the deep forest and stay away from the farmer because the farmer can kill them. But staying in the deep forest, they found that food was a problem. So eventually they still have to come near the farmer to eat his crops, but they have to be very careful not to be caught, not to get trapped. So in the same way, the Buddha said, if a monk lives in the deep forest, it's very difficult to survive, won't get enough food. But if he lives near the lay people, he has to be very careful because he can get caught up with all the lay people. If he associates too much with lay people, then he's going to get killed. That means his holy life is going to be destroyed. So the Buddha said the only way for a monk to live is he still has to live near lay people, because he has to get the support from lay people. But at the same time, to protect himself, the Buddha said a monk has to cultivate meditation, in particular strong samadhi, not to be moved by worldly things. Samadhi is very essential because if you have listened to the earlier suttas, the Buddha said before a person can enter the first jhana, he's got to be secluded from sense desires. He's got to be secluded from unwholesome states before he can enter the first jhana. It's a very purified stage, one-pointedness of mind. So if a monk wants to survive, not get killed by Mara, he has to cultivate Samadhi. That's the purpose of Samadhi. That's why meditation is called bhavana, development of the mind. And even though a monk stays among lay people, the Buddha said one of the qualities a monk has to practice is called aloofness. Aloofness means even though he stays among lay people, he should not associate over much with lay people. And then the third one is in the future, the Buddha said monk has to be careful that he does not live with nuns and novices. That means not live too near, because if he associates too much with nuns and novices, especially with the opposite sex, he can either break his precepts, commit some foul offense, or he gives up the training from seeing too much of the opposite sex. He can give up the training. So that is why the Buddha said that it's very dangerous for a monk to live too close to nuns and novices. And then the last one is that staying with park folk and novices, and then marking out the lands and crops. This refers to some monks who own lands and crops and plenty of property. In the Vinaya, it is not allowed for monks to own lands and crops that are arable, that are cultivated, that can bring in income. It is only allowed for monks to own monastery land. In the Vinaya, monks can own monastery land in the name of the Sangha, and not private property. So also in one of the later suttas that you hear later, the Buddha said, if a monk stays in a place where his meditation can be disturbed by others, that is not the ideal place. When a monk meditates, he should not be disturbed by lay people or any other person. Otherwise he cannot progress much in his meditation. So these are the suttas concerning with warnings for the future. And these 4 suttas are considered very important, and they were selected by the Emperor Asoka and put among his edicts, and the stone pillars that he set up. I think there's one is called the Bhadra Edicts, and these few suttas about fears in the way are mentioned in there. Now we come to Sutta number 5.9.88. The Buddha said, monks, possessed of 5 qualities, the way of an elder monk is not to the advantage of many folk, is not for the happiness of many folk, is not for the good of many folk. It is to the harm and ill of devas and men. Of what 5? There is the elder, time-honored and long gone forth, well-known, renowned, with a great following of householders and those gone forth, a receiver of the requisites, the robe, arms, lodging, and medicines for sickness, who is much learned and has a retentive and well-stored mind, and those Dhammas, lovely in the beginning, lovely in the middle, lovely in the end, are by him much heard, remembered, verbally recited, carefully considered in the mind, thoroughly understood in theory. But he is a wrong viewer with a perverted vision. He turns away many folk from Saddhamma and sets them in what is not Saddhamma.
which is true Dhamma. Thus, though he be an elder, time-honored and long gone forth, through him they fall into the way of wrong views. Though the elder be well known, renowned, with a great following of householders and those gone forth, through him they fall into the way of wrong views. Though the elder be a receiver of the requisites, the robe, alms, lodging and medicines, etc., through him they fall into the way of wrong views. Though the elder be learned and has a retentive and well-stored mind, and those dhammas by him are much heard, remembered, verbally recited, carefully considered in the mind, thoroughly understood in theory, through him they fall into the way of wrong views. Monks possessed of these 5 qualities, the way of an elder is not to the advantage of many folk. Monks possessed of 5 qualities, the way of an elder is to the advantage of many folk, is for the happiness of many folk, for the good of many folk. It is to the advantage and happiness of devas and men. Of what 5? Similarly, the sutta repeats with all these qualities of the elder, namely that the first one, he is long gone forth, well known, renowned, with a great following. The second one, that he receives much requisites. The third, that he is very much learned, and the dhammas are well remembered by him, carefully considered in the mind, thoroughly understood in theory. And then he has right view. And because he has right view, he leads many people into the true Dhamma, Sat Dhamma. That's the end of the sutta. Now this sutta is quite interesting. This sutta is saying that sometimes you can, or probably the Buddha meant that in the future, after the Buddha has passed into Nibbana, there would be such a senior monk with a great following and well known, and he is very much learned in the Dhamma, and in spite of that, he has wrong view, turns people away from the true Dhamma, Sat Dhamma. This Sat Dhamma is very important. Why does the Buddha refer to Sat Dhamma, true Dhamma? This implies that there is false Dhamma. Dhamma is the suttas, the teachings and discourses of the Buddha. So, the true Dhamma is the original suttas, the original discourses of the Buddha. And if we investigate, we find that that is to be found in the earliest 4 Nikayas, the Digha Nikaya, Majjhima, Sangyutta and Anguttara Nikaya, because these are very consistent. There is no contradiction. And later Dhamma, later teachings, there is contradiction. That is why sometimes like now there are so many books available, and some are not the original teachings of the Buddha, with teachings that contradict the original suttas. That is why even though a monk can be very well learned, very well he knows the Tripitaka, the 3 Pitakas very well, yet he can have wrong view. And so because of that, we have to be very careful. As I've read before in Anguttara Nikaya 4.180, the Buddha said that in the future, if any monk says that such and such is the teachings of the Buddha, then without welcoming and without scorning his words, we should compare what he says to be the teachings of the Buddha with the suttas, that means the original 4 Nikayas, and the Vinaya, the disciplinary code of the monks. And if it is in line with the suttas and Vinaya, we can accept it. But if it contradicts the suttas and Vinaya, then we should chuck it out. It is not the teachings of the Buddha. That is what the Buddha said in Anguttara Nikaya 4.180. So from this, we have to be very careful. Even a very famous monk can have wrong view. This is what is meant in the sutta.